Level up your skills. Subscribe to Naveen Tech Hub.
All right, let's kick things off with a problem that, well, it's actually a pretty great problem to have. Imagine you've built this amazing application. You've launched it, and people, they absolutely love it. So your user count is just exploding, right? Traffic is surging, and your app, it's a certified hit. This is the dream for every single developer out there. But you know, that dream, it can turn into a real nightmare, and fast. And why is that? Well, suddenly, with all that success, even simple updates feel like you're performing high-stakes surgery. Deployments are failing out of nowhere. Servers are just falling over under the load. And trying to scale everything, it's just pure chaos, a total firefight. You've basically become a victim of your own success. So that leads us to the big question, right? How in the world do you manage all this complexity, this massive scale, keep your app stable, keep your team sane, and not drown in all that operational chaos? Well, that is exactly what we are going to dive into right now. You know, the answer for huge companies like Netflix, Uber, even Amazon itself, it lies in a service that was built to bring order to this exact kind of chaos. It's called Amazon EKS. And the whole idea is to give you all the incredible power of Kubernetes, but without all the legendary pain that comes with managing it yourself. So what exactly is it? At its core, EKS is a managed Kubernetes service. And trust me, that word managed, it's everything. It means AWS steps in and handles the incredibly complex, super fragile job of running the Kubernetes control plane. Think of it as the brain of the whole operation. This lets you stop worrying about all the plumbing and just focus on what you do best, building awesome features. Just look at the difference here. On one side, you've got the do-it-yourself, self-managed approach. That means it's you staying up all night, worrying about security patches, dealing with complicated version upgrades, and just hoping the whole system doesn't collapse. But now look at the other side. With EKS, AWS handles all of that heavy lifting for you. I mean, the business value here is massive. Your team's time is suddenly freed up to actually innovate, not fight with your infrastructure. All those operational headaches, poof, gone. Now, you've probably also heard about ECS, right? It's another container service from AWS. Here's the simplest way to think about it. EKS gives you the full open source power and portability of Kubernetes. It's awesome for complex microservices that you might need to run pretty much anywhere. ECS, on the other hand, is simpler. It's more opinionated, and it's woven really tightly into the AWS ecosystem. That makes it a great choice for more straightforward applications that are going to live their whole life on AWS. All right, so let's pop the hood and take a look inside. We're going to see how an EKS cluster is actually put together, and maybe even more importantly, who's responsible for what piece of the puzzle. This diagram here just perfectly illustrates the core idea. The best analogy I've heard is this. The control plane, which is managed by AWS, is like the managed brain. It's this highly available, super secure mastermind that's making all the decisions about where your applications are going to run. And then you have the worker nodes. Those are the EC2 instances or Fargate profiles you see. They're the worker hands. They're the actual compute resources that you manage, and they're the ones that execute the work by running your application's containers.
And this right here is the shared responsibility model in action. And honestly, it's a beautiful thing. AWS takes care of the complex brain, the API server, the etcd database, the scheduler. So your focus can shift completely to what you're good at, building and running your applications. You configure your worker nodes, you set up your security roles, and you deploy your code. You own the what, and AWS owns the how.
Okay, so how does a request from a user on the internet actually get to your app? Well, it follows a pretty precise path. First, as you can see, the request hits an AWS load balancer. From there, it gets passed to something called a Kubernetes ingress, which basically acts like a smart traffic cop inside your cluster. That ingress then routes it to the right Kubernetes service, which in turn directs the traffic to one of your healthy application pods. It's a clean, logical flow. Okay, let's switch gears for a second and look at this from a developer's perspective. How does your actual code get onto this super powerful platform? You know, the workflow is probably going to feel pretty familiar if you spent any time in the container world. First, you write your code. Then you package it all up into a nice standard Docker image. After that, you push that image to a container registry, something like Amazon ECR. And from there, you use the standard Kubernetes tool, kubectl, to write a simple YAML file that tells EKS, hey, go grab that image and run it for me. And you have to understand, this architecture is built for the really hard stuff. We're not just talking about simple websites here.
EKS is the engine powering some of the most demanding systems on the planet. Think sprawling microservices architectures, compute-heavy AI and machine learning pipelines, huge API backends, and incredibly scalable SaaS platforms.
All right, now for the real magic, scaling. I mean, running an app is one thing, but making it handle unpredictable, real-world traffic without breaking a sweat, that's a whole other ballgame. So let's look at how EKS does it and some of the common pitfalls you really want to avoid.
So the first hero in our scaling story is the horizontal pod autoscaler, or HPA for short. This thing operates at the application level. You just tell it something simple like, hey, if the average CPU load across my app's pods goes over, say, 70%, I'm going to need more copies. And the HPA just listens. It automatically spins up more identical pods, we call them replicas, to help share the load. It's fantastic.
But hang on. What happens if you need more pods, but all your servers, your worker hands, are totally full? Well, that's where our second hero, the cluster autoscaler, jumps in. These two work as a team. The HPA says, hey, I need more pods. And if there's no room, the cluster autoscaler hears that and goes, no problem, I'll just add more worker nodes. We're talking brand new EC2 instances to the cluster to make that room. It's like a perfect two-level scaling symphony.
But you know, with all this power comes responsibility. There are some common mistakes that can really trip you up. We see it all the time. A team will spend hours debugging why their pod can't talk to a database, only to figure out that the node's IAM role was missing just one little permission. It's a classic gotcha. Things like misconfiguring your VPC networking, or just plain forgetting to set up the autoscalers we just talked about, those are other frequent traps. Look, EKS doesn't make all the complexity disappear, it just helps you manage it at a much higher, more sane level.
And because EKS is so crucial in modern tech companies, it's a super hot topic in interviews for DevOps and cloud engineering roles. So let's just quickly run through a couple of common questions to make sure you're totally ready.
Okay, first up, a very common networking question. How does external traffic actually get into the cluster through an AWS load balancer? What's the real mechanism behind it?
So, the secret ingredient here is something called the AWS Load Balancer Controller. The best way to think of it is as a translator that lives inside your cluster. It's constantly watching for your Kubernetes instructions. So, when you create an ingress object to route web traffic, the controller sees that and automatically goes and creates and configures an application load balancer in your AWS account. And if you create a service of type load balancer for, say, raw network performance, it'll create a network load balancer instead. It's that seamless bridge between the Kubernetes world and the AWS networking world.
All right, here's a really practical one that tests your real-world skills. You've deployed your app, kubectl says the pod is running, but it's completely unreachable. What's your first step? How do you start debugging that?
You absolutely need a system, a step-by-step approach. First thing you do, kubectl describe pod. This is going to tell you if Kubernetes itself is having a problem, maybe it can't pull the image or something. Next, check the logs with kubectl logs. Are there any application errors popping up right at startup? Now, if the pod and the logs both look fine, you've got to check your Kubernetes service and endpoints to make sure they're wired up correctly. And finally, if all of that looks good, I can almost guarantee it's a networking issue. Go check your cluster's network policies and the AWS security groups to make sure that traffic isn't just being blocked at the network layer.
So here's the bottom line. EKS is a total force multiplier. It takes on this immense operational burden of running a world-class container orchestrator, and that frees you and your team up to focus on what really matters, pure innovation. It really does give you all the power of Kubernetes, but without the pain. So the only question left is, how are you going to use that power to build whatever's next?